Welcome back, everybody, to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, remember we just went over talking about the Oakland Athletics, the mess of an organization they are running, the news that they are moving to Sacramento for the next 3 seasons while waiting for their home to be built in Las Vegas. So this will be their final season in Oakland. A mess of an organization. In our first segment, we talked about the new proposal for a college football super league. A league proposed by someone high up in the NFL front office, the right-hand man of Roger Goodell, the man who organized the media rights deal, the $110 billion media rights deal for the NFL. So, someone with a lot of power. So, very interesting situation there in college football. But like I was saying, in this segment, this third segment coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA. Came out today that Julius Randle officially is going to miss the rest of the season. He's going to get reevaluated in September. The Knicks are currently sitting at the 4 seed in the East, so they're clinging on to home court advantage for the playoffs. But right now they're out two of their 3 star players. So we're going to talk about what losing Julius Randle means for the Knicks, what it means for their playoff hopes, and what it could potentially spell for next season and the New York Knicks. But before we do, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation. If you do, and leave a message with it, it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen there for you, me, everybody else in the world to see. We'll have a little conversation about what you had to say. You can control what we talk about here on the show. Once again, that link to leave a tip or donation is gsmcpodcast.net. We appreciate anything that you do give, and we appreciate you all for tuning in to the show. But like I was saying, Julius Randle is done for the year. Julius Randle, who was having one of his best seasons for the New York Knicks, and the Knicks, who were kind of resurgent after making a big trade with the Raptors for OG Anunoby, who is also out right now. There's questions about whether or not he'll be back for the playoffs. He showed up for 1 or 2 games and then hurt his elbow again, so maybe, but it doesn't seem like there's too much optimism around it. They still have Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brunson has been playing out of his mind this season. You know, this is good. This is his best year of his career by far. He was an all-star. He is leading that team. He's being that true number 1 guy that he's kind of has to be with the contract that the Knicks gave him. But you look at how the Knicks are with and without Julius Randle. They're a much better team with him, and they're a much better team with the duo of Randle and Anunoby. Because when they were together, those two, on the floor together, the Knicks' defense was elite. They've only been on the floor together for 14 games. They've only had a fully healthy lineup for 14 games this season. And it's a shame because during those 14 games, they were 12-2. They had the number 1 defense in the entire league. OG Anunoby, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in all the game. Mitchell Robinson down low is really lanky. You have Julius Randle, who's like a huge man, really hounding offensive players. That defense was insane when they were all on the floor. Just without Julius Randle, the Knicks are 15-14. So they're kind of an average team without him. With him, they're like 27-12. So he plays a huge difference in this game. The Knicks have kind of been spiraling. They've been playing okay. Their offense has been really good. Jalen Brunson offensively is a weapon, but the defense just has not been enough to really be a force in the East. And it's a shame because if the Knicks had all 3 of those guys, I think they could make a serious run at the bid for the East because the Bucks, they've just lost to the Wizards and to the Hornets on back-to-back nights. You know? Or sorry, not to the Hornets, the Raptors. I apologize. Their defense isn't there, and they just don't seem to be able to play together very well, as much as a lot of people would have hoped when they traded for Dame. The Celtics are just far and away the best team in the league right now. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, they had their little stretch, but they're not super dominant. So that second team in the East is kind of wide open right now. And I think the Knicks really easily could have filled into that role if they had Julius Randle, if they had OG Anunoby this season, just because of how weak the East is outside of the Celtics. But they don't have them. And it leads to a very interesting question, because I just don't think they're going to make too big of a run in the playoffs. They might be able to win one round depending on their matchup. Right now they'd be playing the Magic. And I think they could probably win that game, but they could probably win that series, but it would be tough. I don't think they're making it out of the second round, especially without being healthy. OG Anunoby is on a 1-year deal. He was traded to the Knicks then, so he's going to be a free agent. If they can re-sign him, if they can stay healthy next season, they are absolutely title contenders, I think. You look at how, I know it's a small sample size, it's only 14 games, and it is the regular season, but 14-game sample size, you get the best defense in the league with some of those offensive weapons as well. You keep that core group together, and the Knicks don't have too many expiring contracts outside of Anunoby. The other guys are locked in long term. I think it could really, really be a great Knicks team. Like I said, they kind of exploded onto the scene once they traded for Anunoby. 12-2, their little stretch there before Randle and Anunoby got hurt. And now they're both still hurt for the playoffs. Anunoby might come back. If he does, I still don't know if it'd be enough for the Knicks to get out of the second round, but I would feel better about them winning that first round matchup. Again, it all depends on the matchup. A lot of things can happen. A lot of things can go right. A lot of things can go wrong. Injuries are the one thing in sports that you can't plan for. It happens in every sport. That's part of the risk of it. You're never going to go into a season with 100% chance of not being hurt. You just have to try and plan for it if you can. So, anyway, the Knicks are going to be a very good team next season, I believe, if these guys can stay healthy. But you also have to be able to re-sign them. The starting five for the Knicks is the Knicks expiring contracts. There's not that many of them. Like I was saying, you have OG Anunoby, who's going to command a pretty big cap hit next season. Alec Burks, who has been better since coming back. There's a player option on OG Anunoby, so he might be back anyway. But, Alec Burks is... There aren't that many guys on the team that really are gonna... They have almost all of their core lined up for next season. Julius Randle will be there until 2025 at a minimum, until next year at least. Same thing for Jalen Brunson. OG Anunoby, we just talked about him. Mitchell Robinson is locked in through 2026. Josh Hart is locked in through 27. Dante DiVincenzo, we're getting into the bench a little bit here, but he's locked in through 2027 as well. They don't have too many major players that are going to be up that are going to be gone next season. So if they can bring OG Anunoby back, that roster is still pretty young. Almost all of their guys that are starting are under 30 years old. 29, 27, 26, 26, these guys have a lot of basketball ahead of them. OG Anunoby is going to command a pretty big contract. I do believe that the Knicks have the cap to sign him back, but we'll see exactly how it works in the offseason. That is going to be the big part for the Knicks. I think if they are able to bring him back, that team is going to be contenders. I mean, like I said, you've seen we saw how they were in that small sample size with those 14 games. That defense was elite, and their offense, they're averaging like 115 points a game right now. So if they can combine their offense right now with their defense as it was before, that team's going to be really good. It's always more fun when the Knicks are good at basketball. And it's been a bit since the Knicks were seriously good at basketball. You have to go all the way back to like Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire days. It's been a while. So hopefully, I wish a speedy recovery for Julius Randle. He did dislocate his shoulder. He was really trying to come back, but he'll be reevaluated in September. Hopefully he's better by then, and we will do a whole new... It's going to be a whole new outlook depending... The Knicks next season really does depend on if they can bring OG Anunoby back or if they can replace him in free agency. There's a lot of guys out there. I really love the fit with OG Anunoby on there. Julius Randle loves the fit. He said he's never had so much spacing and he's never been able to play he's played his best basketball with OG Anunoby on the court this season. So it's a very, very tough situation as a Knicks if you're a Knicks fan. You'd love to see these guys come back, run it back one more time, but you need to sign OG Anunoby back next season. As for this season, they're just not contenders with the injuries they have, which is a shame. But they could be next season. If this roster was completely healthy, I think I'd put them top 3 in the East, maybe even the second best team in the East right now. Unfortunately, they're not. Anyway, in our fourth and final segment coming up around the corner, we're going to close out our show talking a little bit about the Final Four coming up. We're going to talk about the women's Final Four and the men's Final Four that, start tomorrow and over the weekend. So stick around. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.